Welcome to Talk to Brazil with Tom Rioch, the business connector to business in Brazil. Welcome to Talk to Brazil, the Business Connection, a leading business podcast talking about business in the world. I'm Tom Rioch, an American from Pittsburgh living in Brazil, known as the king of networking and talking from my podcast studio in Campinas, São Paulo, Brazil. Today's guest is Jean-Yves Laguillez, and he's joining us from his office in Paris, France. Jean-Yves is co-founder at Emotion Digital. They're experts in increasing marketing return and sales in China. They're doing that through digital marketing services, as well as WeChat marketing and other Chinese social networks. All of that to make your brand more visible on the Chinese market. So with that, Jean, welcome again to Talk to Brazil Business Connection.
Hello, Tom.
I want to say that it's a pleasure having you back. We spoke last March, talked about the Chinese market, but recently I saw on a LinkedIn post that you mentioned China as a collectivist society. I'd like you to expand on that for our listeners.
Yes, it's a quite important point that you mentioned, because it's a culture. China is a different culture from a Western culture. China is really and still a collectivist society by opposition with the Western cultures. Most of them are individualist cultures. Mm-hmm. And when you do marketing to China market, when you want to do business with China, it's very important to understand the culture of the country where you want to do a business. And so you need to take into account that China has a collectivist society. You can see this in for example, in the pandemic management. In China, first of all, is a group. First of all, is a country, is not the individual people. And Chinese people, in fact, they see them as a part of a group. They are not thinking as an individual, mm-hmm. But first, they are part of a group. And they want to strive for group harmony. So this is quite different from our culture in America or in Europe.
Now, even if we take specific to the point where you are experts in WeChat marketing, from what I see, WeChat for the Chinese is exactly a collectivist view of communication, of doing business within the country, right?
Yes, and in WeChat, usually you talk to friends, you take to your groups, you build groups, and through WeChat marketing, in fact, we talk to the groups of people sharing the same views or same interest. Yes.
Is it safe to say that all Chinese are on WeChat?
Most of them. I don't know exactly, but it's more than 1 billion Chinese on WeChat. I think it's 1.2, something like this. So they are not all on WeChat, but most of them.
A lot of people. And yes. Again, that would be different from our Western societies. Speaking of Brazil specifically, or the United States even. In Brazil, we have WhatsApp is highly used, but still many people use different platforms to communicate. FaceTime or Messenger, what have you. So there really isn't one place. As we compare to China, really, if you're on WeChat, you reach 1 billion people.
Because on WeChat, in China, you do everything in your life. In fact, it's not only for business. First of all, it's just for your life, to order food, to order a taxi, to buy a train ticket, to buy a flight ticket, to chat, of course, with your community, with your friends, with your family. As well, you pay everything with WeChat. When you go to
now we see, because of the pandemic, even your health, right? Your health records, everything that you need
on it
is
yes.
there, right?
Yes. So everything for your life is on WeChat. So at the end, I would say there is no choice.
Well, besides not being a choice, but again, that gets to the collectivist people. I think Chinese people feel that that's really the way of life. Can we say that?
Yeah, it's correct. It's a part of the life to be on WeChat, as every Chinese people is on WeChat. And the government, local governments, in fact, communicate as well on WeChat.
And too, for Western cultures and Western business persons, many times I speak to business people here in Brazil, and they say, well, I have my site, I have this, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, but many times they don't realize that none of that is seen within China.
Yes, when you go to China for business or to meet a supplier or just to meet some people, it's very important to be on WeChat, to have your personal account. Because there are two types of accounts. There is a personal account, which is quite easy, in fact, to get, and you can get it in English. In fact. And there is a company business account, which is quite different. To get a business account, the account must be verified by Chinese authorities. So it's a different process.
Now you and your company, that's what you do. You help Western or foreign companies establish themselves inside China, correct?
Yes, to establish themselves on digital.
And so that is, so you create the presence, they have their presence through you, and through your marketing, you'll help those companies and persons in that respect develop their business in China.
We have a team in Shanghai. All the team is in the Shanghai office, a Chinese team. And we help the companies to have a visibility on the China market, especially on the digital, because China is a digital country. And you can do a lot of things on digital, including e-commerce, selling, do your marketing. And usually the first tool to have a visibility in China is to be on WeChat. Because if you're not on WeChat, you do not exist. Your company does not exist.
Well, you mentioned digital, but again, I feel even here in Brazil, more and more, the way to reach anyone is digital. So if you're not in most Brazilians here, just for comparison, the vast majority have a smartphone. The vast majority access internet through their smartphone. And many of their daily activities and business activities are done on the smartphone. So a person or a company that's not digital really can't survive anywhere in the world.
No, it's correct. And for sure, the pandemic has created a huge acceleration everywhere in the world for all the digital platforms and processes and so on.
But your focus, then, it's not only on French companies to help them develop.
No, for sure.
For anybody, any company, any country, from anywhere.
Most of our customers are not French, in fact. So I'm based in France, but because we are as well on digital, so we get customers coming from anywhere, in fact.
Right.
Either Europe, Australia, as well, Asia. We have one in US. So for sure we can get customers from anywhere in the world through digital. So.
Well, the same way. I'm not Brazilian, but I'm an American here speaking from Brazil. Today, the business is global, literally.
Yes.
And connectivity, what we are doing right now on this podcast, it's a digital interaction, right? So I could basically be anywhere, you could be anywhere.
Today we don't have customers from Brazil.
Yeah, no borders, right?
I hope that thanks to your podcast, maybe we can get some customers or companies interested going China through your podcast. That would be great.
But if we consider China and talking about borders, there is let's call it a digital border, correct? What we've just mentioned, you need to be on WeChat, you need to have a local presence.
What we call the Great Wall border. It's true because all the digital environment is different. Google doesn't work in China. In China you have Baidu, you don't have Google. All the social apps are different. Even TikTok. TikTok is well developed in the western part. It's a Chinese company, in fact. ByteDance. TikTok is from ByteDance. But in China, it's another app very similar to TikTok called Douyin, with a strong features about e-commerce, which is not yet the case for TikTok. So all the apps are different. I would say the only app which is working well in China is LinkedIn, in fact. LinkedIn is working as well in China. Not exactly the same app. There are as well some features which are not working in China.
Right.
But 80% of LinkedIn is working well. You can connect companies or customers in China using LinkedIn.
Well, let's talk a little bit now, talking again about business and connecting. If we look forward to 2022, and if we look further out, 2025, what do you see as business development in China? What is your feeling? What is your outlook?
I believe that it will continue to be an opportunity for Western companies. Even if we can say that, because I have been living in China for 10 years, I have a long experience in China, I can see that year after year is probably more difficult and it's more complex because for many reasons. Because the world is changing, of course, but as well because China has become a very modern country, quite good living standards, and so the consumers have a higher expectation than in the past, especially about foreign products, because they can find the same product from Chinese companies. So it's probably more challenging for Western companies to enter China market than in the past. But I would say that if foreign brands are able to provide good quality product, can bring value to the Chinese customers, for sure the opportunities will remain. I have no doubt on this. And so you need to take into account the change of consumers in order to be able to provide the right product offer, the right service offer. I would say as well that in some specific markets, like lifestyle, everything in lifestyle, everything related to health, to environment, to such a market, they are still very, very attractive to Chinese consumers.
And what you mentioned of having products or services that show value, how is value perceived by the Chinese consumer?
First, the Chinese consumers are very sophisticated. So before buying a product, they will do a lot of checks about the product, about what people say about this product, either in China, either by Chinese people living in foreign countries. So they will use social media in order to check what is really the benefit or the value of the product. It's the way they are doing. So they will not buy before checking 5, 10 reviews of the product. So it's one important way in China to assess the value. They will make sure as well that a company provide at least the same product in China that in terms of value than in Western countries. If a company send to China less quality product than they are selling in their own country, for sure this company will be banned from China. Nobody will want to buy. This is quite important, and we can see now several examples of companies who have been out of business because they propose to Chinese consumer a lower offer versus what they propose in their own countries.
And you mentioned that the Chinese consumer checks frequently. And obviously we've said about the digital implications of, and they're checking instantly. So you say, well, they can check because it's in their hand. They have a device in their hand. They're checking.
Yes.
But as a collectivist society, do you think they value reviews or references more than maybe we do in a Western society?
In China, they value the reviews of their community. Yes. So they value more the community reviews than the brand comments, because for sure the brand is doing its own marketing. but they will value much more the reviews coming from their friends,
right,
from their community, from their peers. So this is really the key. And all the purpose of doing marketing in the Chinese apps is really to get reviews about your product, about your services from a lot of Chinese
well, I see that concept
consumers.
becoming more important even here in our Western societies of the value of a review. So for a collective society, that's very important.
Yes, the key. If you don't, if you have no presence, you don't get any reviews from the communities, you are not able to sell in China. So this is correct. When you ask me the question about the future of China, I would say as well what is very important for Western companies, where they can get opportunities, is all market related to the China government 5-year plan. Because China economy is strongly under the China government,
right?
And more, I would say more and more. So every 5 years there is a new plan, a 5-year plan. And by experience, we can see that usually it's quite well executed. A lot of budget, government give a lot of push about all action plans related to this 5 years policy. And so when we look at the 5 years policy till 2025, in fact, there is a strong push on environment. There is a strong push on quality of life for the people, for instance.
Right.
Which means that all markets related to this will enjoy, for sure, good market trends and can get good opportunities, for instance.
Well, I agree with you. To have a 5-year plan is essential, but what I've seen from China specifically and companies within China, obviously they start working on a 5-year plan every day. They're not waiting for next year. The reaction from Chinese companies seems to be immediate.
Yes, and it's really well supported by the government with a lot of budget, with a lot of push from the local governments, which are quite helpful, in fact, for the companies.
And so that push is translated into, let's say, very tangible results for business companies, right? Yes.
So for sure, usually the 5-year plan is much more ambitious than what happened later on. They always give big numbers. Well, at the end, the numbers are always lower, but there's still a strong push and a strong progress in the direction of the 5-year plan. It's my experience living in China in the past, yes.
Well, for our listeners, I guess you would say it's never too late to start in the Chinese market. There's always opportunity. Is that correct?
It's never too late. Even it's more difficult year after year. I would say, and I always say this, that in China everything is possible, but nothing is easy. So, and year after year is more complex, more difficult. Right. And so it's very important when you start, you want to enter China market, to have a plan as well, to build your plan, your marketing plan, and to find a good partner to help you enter the Chinese market, which is very different from any Western market.
Well, I agree. It's very different, but it's very progressive. It's very successful. And the point we made, we need to understand the culture. Obviously, we say you need to understand the culture in any country that you plan to work with. But more specifically, because of the size, what you mentioned of being able to reach 1 billion people, obviously you don't have to reach 1 billion. Any amount of people that you can reach is a sizable number. It's success.
No, because China is not a homogeneous country. You have a lot of different group of people, and so you need to be able to understand the global culture, understand the culture of the group you are targeting in order to reach your right audience. Yes.
Very good. So your focus is not only B2B, it's also B2C to help a company reach the consumer.
In fact, it's mainly B2C, yes. Because we are doing both B2C, B2B, but many B2B business in Western countries do not think that they need to do digital marketing to enter China. So it's more, we are doing a lot of efforts to explain this to our potential customers. So B2C, they are convinced that they need a lot of digital marketing. For B2B, customers are less convinced.
Oh, the B2B is branding, but B2C, and we're talking social marketing and digital marketing. You want to talk to the individual. It's the person holding the device in their hand.
Yes.
Very good. Well, Jean, I want to thank you again for taking part. Been following you actively, and you do post frequently on LinkedIn. I suggest that to our listeners of bringing timely updates regarding the Chinese market. Not only this regarding the collectivism, but many other points that you do bring. So very insightful, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Tom, for this talk.
And success, and I'm sure we'll be back maybe even before 2022 to see how things are advancing in China. Okay, Jean?
Yes, welcome.
And thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
And for our listeners, I'd like to mention you can find more about Jean-Yves Laguillez. The name is JeanYves, and the last name is Laguillez. Find him on LinkedIn, as I mentioned, and also the website www.emotiondigital. And I'd like to thank our audience and our sponsor, Focus MI Market Intelligence. Focus MI specializes in market research for the Brazilian agricultural market. More about them on their website, www.focusmi.com.
We have a new website, in fact.
Well, what is it?
Yes, so it's emotiondigital.agency. Agency.
Agency.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll correct that. So that's emotiondigital.agency.
Yes, correct.
Very good. And again, I'd like to thank our audience, remind them of Focus MI Marketing Intelligence, and their site is www.focusmi.com. All Talk to Brazil podcast shows can be found on major platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Amazon, Geo7, YouTube, and many others. Remember, when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Tom Rioch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.